Hello and welcome to the Awakened Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Kaki Lee, a mindset coach and healer who's on a mission to share the love and wisdom of inspiring women from around the world who have gone through adversity and turned their pain into purpose. Today, I'm excited to share the love and wisdom of founder of Amapola spiritual and karmic energy healer, Daniela Londoño, who is joining me all the way from LA. Welcome, Daniela.
Thank you so much, Kaki. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Awakened Feminine podcast. Before we dive into your journey, I'd really love to know, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
I think an awakened feminine, the way I might define it is somebody who has already or is in the process of tapping into her essence, the essence of her soul, and understanding that essence is what needs to come out. It's what needs to be expressed. I would define it like that. That's either an awakening feminine or an awakened feminine.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So let's dive in, Daniela. You're a karmic energy healer, and I know you specifically use the spiritual response therapy to do that for your clients. I've had a few sessions with you and you're absolutely amazing. I had no idea what it was before. And then the first time I had a session, I was like, what is this? I can feel stuff, and you're in Colombia before and I'm feeling stuff in my body. This is like, what? So
amazing.
Right?
I love it.
So can you share with us first, what is spiritual response therapy?
Of course. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about what I do. So, karmic energy healer, what does this mean? What does this word karma mean? So basically, what I do is I help people with their energy blocks. Energy blocks come in all shapes and forms. Sometimes energy blocks are beliefs, like beliefs that are stuck in our system, that are limiting us or that are blocking us from connecting to our soul's purpose. Sometimes they're feelings that haven't quite gotten an outlet and are stuck inside our system. Sometimes they're archetypes that we're fixating on. I mean, many types of just energy blocks that are disconnecting us from our true essence. And these energy blocks exist all over our, what we call our subtle bodies. So we have a physical body, and then we have energetic bodies outside of our system. That's where a good part of energy blocks get formed. Another part is, and here we get a little bit woo, but in a part called the Akashic Records, which it would be like the cloud, the information where the cloud where information is stored, the soul's records. That's where a lot of energy gets stored as well, or energy blocks get stored. So what I do is I go into a session with a client and understand the problem that they come, to the session with, and understand what energy blocks are causing that problem and how we can clear those energy blocks, so that basically the person that comes in, my client, can get a lot more clarity and feel a lot freer from that issue that they had when they came to the session. That's the gist of it, I would say.
Yeah, that's an awesome explanation. And definitely you do feel a lot clearer and a lot lighter after the session.
Yeah. And that's the whole point, like clarity and freedom. Yeah.
And magic happens. But anyway, we're going to go down your path. So what led you down the path of actually learning this and then actually making that your career now?
Oh man, that's a really good question. So there was a couple of things that I would say started me on this path. The first thing is that I have always been a very sensitive human being. Like, oh my God, so sensitive. And for a long time, I thought this was sort of like a curse. Because I didn't understand it, right? So I would be sitting next to somebody who was angry, and I felt their anger in my body. I would be with somebody who was depressed, and I started feeling that energy of depression in my body like it was mine. And for a long time, I didn't know what to do about this. I didn't know what it was. It scared me. It terrified me, because there's a lot of people going through a lot of difficult emotions, and I was feeling all of them. So and ever since I remember this, I had this ability. I thought it was like I had this problem. I thought it was a problem. It's like I had this issue. How do I make this issue go away?
Yeah.
And I started to go to therapy. Not much answers there, but that led me to other stuff, constellations, family constellations, and then that led me to crystals, and that led me to a whole path of spiritual, esoteric stuff. And that started giving me a little bit of more answers of what was happening to me every time that somebody got too near me.
Yeah.
Why was I not being able, why was I feeling everybody's feelings? And how did I block it? How could I place limits? So that was one of the things that got me very interested. It was just my overwhelm around feelings, everybody's emotions, around not knowing how to place limits on that. And how that showed up, that lack of limits that I had in my life. That was, I think it's one of the biggest lessons that I've been able to learn in this lifetime. Is how to place boundaries. So that thing of placing boundaries, it came up with people, in my relationship with people. It came up in my relationship with this energetic thing. It came up in my relationship with food. I was food intolerant, like you wouldn't believe. I had everything, like gluten intolerance, sugar intolerance. I couldn't eat fish, dairy, anything. My diet was so restricted because anything would just hit me like a bomb. My system was overly sensitive. It was way too reactive. So I was looking answers for myself because I felt very powerless. And I felt very out of control, and I felt like there has to be something that I can do to not feel this overwhelmed. So, and I'm also very relentless and very curious, and I won't stop until I get what the answers that I want and to stop feeling the way that I have. So it took me about 8 years to fall into the type of work that I'm doing right now. After experimenting with a whole lot of stuff with like angel clearings and meditations and all these things in the closet, because back in the day I was a digital consultant and I was working in New York, and I was also working in fashion, and then I came back to Colombia. Like all of this was like very hush. I don't come from a family who's very spiritually, like esoterically open. I don't. Like my family, they're like economists. They're like PhDs, economists, PhDs. And so this was all very like in my alone time, in my computer, like visiting things and doing things. And I came upon this type of healing, which has to do with energy blocks that are really deeply rooted and that are not even of this life, but that can occur in past lives. And that started making sense to me. Because I remember with therapy, it was like everything was about childhood. And I was like, my mother can't be the blame of everything that has happened to me in my life. Like that can't be. It can't be. And so one thing led to another. I went for the first time to a karmic healer, to a person who does spiritual response therapy. I felt it, like how you're saying that you felt it all over. I did as well. It was the craziest and the most wonderful sensation of liberation, of things that were making my heart heavy. All of a sudden, like I felt how the weight got off me. And so I was like, I need to have this tool for myself. Like I need to learn how to do this. And so I did. And I was doing it for myself for a pretty long time without telling anybody. Like I didn't even tell my living boyfriend what I was doing. He was just like, what is that with the pendulum? I'm just like, what is it?
Something.
Until I actually told him. I was very much in the closet with this. And then about a year and a half ago, I had an academy for female entrepreneurs, and I helped them sort of plan so that their businesses could grow. And my focus was creative entrepreneurs, designers, fashion designers, jewelry designers, and all this. And I was giving them very practical tools like Excel sheets and these things, right? Like how to do your costs and how to plan your sales and all that. That's important. That's important. But one of the things I started to realize is that if you don't have a shift in your energy, your business will stay exactly the same, because your business is an extension of you. And if your energy is blocked, that will be that blockage will extend to your business. And when I started doing energy healing with them, very much in the closet, like, you know what, after I don't know, 3 months of them just being like, but I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do either. Like, I'm giving you all the tools. Fuck, what's going on? I was like, you know what? Let's do energy healing. And they're just like, what? And I'm just like, yeah, I know. You wouldn't expect this, but let's do it. I took out the pendulum and started swinging the pendulum. And I started seeing the difference in the results. Like, all of a sudden, clients started showing up for them. All of a sudden, the relationship that they had in their business that was falling astray, problems started very basically, or either disappearing or just subsiding. And I was like, okay, this is impacting a business. Like, this impacts the business. This impacts money. It's not only about the soul. It's the actual physical, material world that we live in that our energy is impacting. And then at the beginning of the pandemic, I felt a shift in consciousness, and I felt a calling to start doing this, because I just saw that it was much more effective to work on somebody's energy, to allow them to manifest their soul's purpose into their life, than to give them Excel sheets, or than to give them like tools for business. And I started that about at the beginning of the pandemic, which is when we met. And I was sort of trying it out for the public. And now I'm in LA working with artists, with people in Hollywood, and helping them further pursue their own soul purpose, so that all of us get to experience more light in the things that they're putting out on social media, in their products, in their services.
I love that. I've got full tingles again, as you mentioned that you're serving artists. So definitely that is your target audience. I love that, because so many courses that you do, or so many people that you employ to help you with, improving your businesses, is very sterile. So the whole, like you were saying, the Excel spreadsheets, the strategy, which is needed, but
it's needed.
It's definitely needed, but it's very sterile. But then, as you say, if you don't work on your energy,
nothing's gonna change if you don't work on your energy.
It's absolutely essential. And
and
I love that, you've been in this woo-woo closet, and I think it's more acceptable now, but people still, I talk to people, I mean, I used to be a pharmacist, so my friends, my friends who do listen, some of them like, your podcast, they'll mention specific people, but they're like, oh, that one was a bit, crystals, and I tuned out, because they don't understand, and they haven't had the experience, so they completely block it, which is absolutely fine, because everyone has their journey. But it's just like, why do we have to be in this closet to
100%
for this experience?
100%. I feel for me, it was part of my journey of untangling myself and of reaching down to my core purpose. So I think for me, I've realized in my life that my soul's purpose is to free others and give them clarity. That is what I do best. And that's when I do that, I just feel like come alive. When I give clarity and I help people free themselves from like things, that's when I feel the most alive. And in order to fully give clarity to people, I feel the most profound way of giving clarity is reaching the soul's records, is reaching the most profound part of a human being and actually exploring that.
Yeah.
And I think my journey of understanding myself was to literally release so much baggage of, oh, if I do that, if I talk about the soul's records, people are not going to take me seriously. What is my family going to think? What is the society that I live in going to think? I'm going to lose all credibility. People are going to think I'm gone crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea the amount of beliefs that I had.
Yeah.
That I had to go one by one and basically release them and just be like, I don't want this belief anymore. I don't want it. And that is the journey that we all go into when we say we want to connect to our soul's purpose. Yeah. When we're just like, we want to live our dharma, we want to live our purpose. That's it. Part of it is understanding that your purpose and my purpose was something that was unique. And what's another word for unique? Weird.
Yes.
And that's what we're scared of. Another word for unique is weird. And I had to get comfortable with my weirdness, with my ability to see more than normal people saw, with knowing that the fact that if most people didn't feel what I felt, it's not that I was crazy. It's just I was tuning into something that was a little bit different. I had an ability. Yeah. And so that took me several years. And if any of the people if any of your listeners are going through this, know that that's part of the process. Part of the process when you want to reach your dharma is untangling all the limiting beliefs that are disconnecting you from your soul's purpose.
Yeah.
In my case, it was this.
Yeah. And it's a messy, messy process. But when you come out on the other side, it is so liberating. And it's also a continuous process of releasing things that come and go.
It's a never-ending process.
It's a never-ending process. But when you first go into the process, because you've never had to do that before, it is the most scary thing. That
requires a lot of courage.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people tend to just want to block it because it's like, well, I just want to be normal like everyone else.
Yes.
And not be this weird person. So they try and fit in until they get to the point where they're like, no, they break down or have a meltdown because they're just not being aligned to their soul because they're trying to block it.
Oh, for sure. You know what? I feel it was, if I look back to my own journey, there was a point where I felt more comfortable conforming and fitting in, even though I felt I was like trying to fit into a square when I'm a circle.
Yeah.
I felt at a time I felt more secure doing that showed up as myself. Yeah. That was where I was at for quite a long time, I would say.
Yeah.
And then slowly, as I worked on myself and I started untangling the reasons why I needed to fit in and what the fear-based beliefs that I had in myself around the fact that if I don't fit in, it means that I don't belong. It means that I will be loved. It means that my security and my everything is going to, crumble down. Yeah. As I started to entangle that, it got more unbearable to try to fit in. And so the possibility of being like, fuck it, I'm just going to be myself, I'm going to show myself, became a brighter option. But I feel it's a process. There's a point where you feel more comfortable conforming until you just can't bear it any longer. Yeah. And that's when you can't bear it, and when the pain of being in a straitjacket is greater than the fear of showing yourself, and showing up as yourself, that's when you started doing the transition, not before.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And I want to ask you, because, you said on your journey, part of it was being scared of what your family will think, what your friends will think, because, you were never, spiritual in that sense. So when you did come out of the closet, what was the reaction?
So to be honest, it was really positive. And to be honest, it was really positive for the following reason. I had gotten quite a lot of practice by myself when I started doing this. I kept quiet about this until actually about 2 years ago. And I've been doing it for another 2. So, and I had already seen results in myself. And so, for example, when I came out to my mom saying like, hey, so this is what I'm doing, she was like, oh, okay. And I told her like, it healed this in me and it healed that in me. And because one of the things that it can really help heal was food intolerances. And my mom was allergic to spicy food. And I told her like, Ma, if you want, I can give you a free session to see if your spicy food allergy will go away. And it did. And so with that, my mom was like, my daughter's a healer. She was full in.
She was sold.
So she was sold. She was sold. And you know what I've been discovering. Obviously, I've had some family members, which it's been hard because they really they're going through their own stuff. Yeah. And what I'm saying is threatening them in one way or another because they're probably going through their own stuff. Yeah. But for the majority of people that I've been talking to, and as soon as I say the word, I'm an energy healer, people go like, tell me about that. Yeah. It's amazing how many people are spiritual in the closet. Yes. And until you come out, when you say, I'm doing this, people are just like, you know what? I have been doing the other thing for 4 years and I haven't told anybody about it. It's given a lot of people that I've talked to about this a space to come out themselves.
Yeah, I love that. And I've had the same type of thing happen. It's like you've given them a permission slip to come out and go, me too.
Exactly. Just like, isn't it wonderful? People just say, yes.
Yeah. I love it.
Obviously not everybody, but I would say more than fewer. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely more positive than negative.
Oh yeah. And more people than I would say more than half. Yeah. Like much more than half have been very positive about it.
Yeah. Awesome. So I want to ask you, I'd love to, for you to share some more love and wisdom with us. You mentioned that boundaries was one of the biggest lessons that you've learned so far.
Oh man. You have no idea. My life wanted me, spirit wanted me to learn boundaries, and it brought me masters in all aspects of my life to learn boundaries in all aspects of my life. It was a huge lesson. Yeah.
Can you unpack a little bit? I know you said it was like in your relationships, with your energy, like feeling other people's feelings. Can you unpack about maybe a particular experience which really taught you about boundaries?
Oh man, of course.
And how then you started putting boundaries around you, like healthy boundaries around you, so that you can live a life where you're not, getting things left, right, and center, and not being true to yourself.
Yeah, and not being present.
Yeah.
So I think, let's see, there's so many examples of boundaries, of how I had to learn how to deal with boundaries. So let me start at the beginning. One of the things that I've learned in this journey is that everything that comes into our life comes as a lesson, the good and the bad, everything. Why? Because the reason why we're here on this planet is to learn. That is the reason why we're here. And there's 2 mechanisms that our soul uses to learn. It uses insight when we give the space for insight. So when we meditate every day, when we journal every day, when we literally have a space where insights can come. If we don't give the space where insight can come, there's another very effective mechanism that our soul uses, and it's suffering and pain. So it will bring somebody into your life that will force you to either get hit in the face or learn. Yeah. Grow either way. And so, for example, for me, one of the lessons that I've learned around boundaries has come at, firstly, with my amazing mother. That was a huge lesson for me throughout my life, because my mother, bless her heart and bless her soul, she has, and it's now I understand that it's not even her fault. It's just like it's so ingrained in who she is. She has a little bit of a manic energy where if she sees something and it's not quite to what she likes, she will go in and fix it. And so she's the type of person that if you're cooking and if something, like, she will hover behind you trying to, micromanage. And when I was young, I felt so invaded, and I was just like, Mama, cook you, like, go ahead, take whatever I'm doing that I feel that you're behind me and I feel that I'm doing it wrong, take it. And so with my mother, it got to a point where I felt so invaded by this energy that she had. And now I understand it wasn't personal. It was something that she was dealing with, of just like needing to control, and a manic energy, something that was out of her control. At the beginning, it got to a point where I felt so invaded that I had to leave. I was like, Mama, I can't be in the same house that you are in, because I need my space. And I went to I fought with her, and I moved to another country, and it was terrible. And for about 2 years, our relationship sucked. And so one of my relationship in my 20s with my mother, especially my early 20s, was very much about voicing my boundaries and saying, Ma, what you're doing right now is invading my space. And vocalizing. And at the beginning, I didn't know how to do it well. So I went to the other extreme. I let it build on until it was super big, and I felt super invaded, and then exploded. And then she didn't understand why from something very small, I had that reaction. Yeah. And one of the things, so that also happens when you're starting to learn your boundaries. Yeah. And then part of my process was to find a middle ground of understanding that she wasn't doing anything because she wanted to hurt me. It's just that she was a human too, and she was going through her own things. Yeah. And so learning how to vocalize, and that was my biggest lesson, learning how to say, Ma, if I am in the kitchen and you're hovering behind me all the time, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Please trust that I am going to do a good job at what I'm doing here, and sit down at the table and relax. Yeah. And say it with this tone. This took me many years to learn how to not be like, what's going on? And just like bursting. Yeah. That was, I think, my relationship with my mother has been one of the biggest masters in showing me boundaries. And then as I left my mother's house in complete rebellion, I found myself attracting the energy that I was rebelling against with my mother in bosses. So my first boss in the States was very like invading boundaries. Yeah. And a lot of the bosses that I've had until two bosses that I had that same manic energy that my mother had, of just like invading and trying to control, and like being very on top of me, controlling, dominating, intense. And because when you run away from something, you might run away from the person, but you don't run away from the energy. Yeah. They're just like, oh, she ran away from her mother. Let's look, who else has manic energy that we can bring that person into her life so she can complete the lesson, because she's not going anywhere until she learns how to deal with it, until she learns how to place boundaries with manic energy. Yeah. And so bosses were a huge master of, and I would say these were lessons out of suffering, because at the time I didn't give myself space for insight. And so how this came about, how did I learn how to place limits with somebody deeply transgressing my limits until the point where I had to stand up and just fight back. And that is how I started learning how to place limits. At the beginning, being very reactive, and then understanding where I felt aggressed and how I could talk to the person who was aggressing me and my limits, and being like, hey, that comment that you said, or that action that you took, or that blah blah that happened, that it made me feel really uncomfortable. I'm seeing it from a loving point of view. And so that lessons of suffering were with a lot of relationships, especially with people who had some type of domineering power over me, bosses in general. And that's when I started to get into energy healing. I was like, what is, like, there's a common denominator here. It's me. I'm bringing in, like, I'm stepping into roles where the owner of the company that I'm working for is somebody who is transgressing my limits constantly. What is going on? And so I started going to heroes in therapy, heroes, other things like constellations and energy. And I was like, I want to get this energy out of me. I'm clearly attracting it. And until that's when I started feeling SRT. That's under having those experiences where I felt so transgressed got me to look for insights. And that's what experience do. Like, it's like, all right, we're gonna hit you, like, we're gonna make you feel pain until you give yourself the opportunity to look for insights. And once you look for insights and start feeling the energy that's inside you, when you heal the energy that's inside you, you won't attract that anymore.
Yes, definitely.
And so that was my journey, with very painful lessons that made me grow, until I had I guess it's sort of the courage and the surrender, being like, you know what, okay, so I now understand that this is happening to me because I have energy inside me that is attracting the situation. Whatever I don't like about in my exterior life, it means that there's something inside, which means if I want that thing in my exterior life to change, I need to change inside. And that's when I started really, really leaning into the spiritual world and really, really leaning into energy healing, and started seeing the differences and started seeing the changes, like, very quickly. And I was like, this is like, this works. This works.
How was this just kind of came through when you first experienced, like, healing by spiritual means, like with those SRT, or, you know, you're looking at constellations and all that. What was your feeling? Because obviously you weren't brought up in an environment where you was, you know, there was spiritual practices or anything like that. And so were you like, oh, am I going crazy? Or is this really real? Like, what was your thoughts when you first had a healing?
Okay, that's a really good question. I think there's two voices that were simultaneously going on in my head. There's one voice that was like, yes, this resonates, this connects, this is totally true. And I've had that since I was really little. The first time that I got an astrological reading or something that was esoteric, I was like, yes, this feels like I something felt alive in me. There was another part that was like, but I can't tell anybody about it, because if I do, people are going to think that I'm crazy. People are going to think that I have no judgment, and people are going to treat me like I'm stupid, or treat me like I'm less worthy of, because I believe in these things. Or because I talk about these things and because they're not rational. And those were all my constructions that I had inside. And so I think it was a little bit of both. But when I started going to sessions where I could feel a permanent shift in my energy after leaving the session, then I didn't care anymore. I was like, you know, who cares what other people think? This shit works. This shit works. And so I don't care what other people think anymore. I didn't tell other people so I pursued what I did was like, I have these voices. So I'm just going to keep it silent until I didn't. And that's an okay path too. Like, if any of the people that are hearing this conversation right now feel that there's something, they're just like, I'm so embarrassed that people would find out that I want to do this, do it in secret for a while. You don't have to tell everybody. Like, it's not all or nothing. Like, give it time to brew. Give yourself 6 months of experimentation. And if you feel there's a difference, if you feel there's something that, if you notice any results at the end, then sort of tell other people. But definitely,
that's the path that I took too.
Yeah. And it makes total sense.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Thank you. I just wanted to ask because it just came. So with your around the boundaries, I know you said you started going to energy healing, and seeing different people. So what were some of the other tools that were really helpful with you to heal this, or to for any healing process where you have to work through something? What are some, apart from SRT? I know that's the tool and it's amazing. Is there anything else that you use to help yourself go through a healing process?
So many things. So I'll give you a list. Let's see. It depends on what I'm going through. So because my body, so there's a thing, anxiety in the Eastern world, in Ayurveda specifically, is explained as an excess in air. And it happens to people who have very airy bodies. I am a person who has a very airy body. So I tend to lack grounding just in general. And I tend to be very airy, which means that anxiety comes easy for me. Like I'll feel anxious, and I'll feel like confused, and I'll feel I'm not grounded with a lot of, like, it's a tendency. It's a normal imbalance that my body and my mind goes through. So for example, when I am feeling ungrounded, and that happens on a daily basis, when something is causing me anxiety, or when I'm going through change. For example, I just moved to LA, and that whole experience is ungrounding in itself. One of the things that really, really, really helped me was, first, the food I was consuming. So I was very mindful of the food, of not consuming airy food when I already had a lot of air in my system. Airy food means, for example, anything that cracks, anything that goes, that's airy food. And eating more food that had earth. Second, there's a lot of exercises that we can do, grounding exercises that Anodea Judas taught. There's a couple of just very simple exercises that you can do to help ground yourself. And that just doesn't require any money. It just requires you, it doesn't even require any equipment. It just requires you to follow them for 5 minutes, and that helps you ground your energy. So that's a couple of tools that I use when I am feeling anxious, where I'm feeling ungrounded. When I feel lack of clarity, SRT is the tool that I use, and anything that has to do with karmic healing. When I'm having trouble with dynamics, not with me, but when I'm just like, I'm stuck here in a dynamic with 2 people or 3 people, that something's not going well, like something is, and that happened a lot in quarantine, of course. I mean, quarantine brought up the worst in people, like all the shadow aspects, like everything, all the worries. And a lot of dynamics started playing out. And I remember being like, okay, so what's going on? I'm feeling this is triggering. It's triggering me, it's triggering the person, it's triggering the other person. Like, what's going on? Constellations really helped. Family constellations really help do, like, clear energy within systems. When you're having problems with not only just one person or with yourself, but with like a group of people, and the dynamic is sort of off. I give myself space. So because I have chosen to learn from suffering as little as possible, and I'm hoping that everybody that's listening to you chooses the same thing. I am giving myself space for reflection, and I take my space for reflection very seriously, like very seriously. I meditate every day for 2 hours in the morning. Obviously, I'm an energy healer. I do this. My clarity and my ability to connect to source is the reason, is my dharma. It's my soul purpose. So I need to be very clear. But I started meditating about half an hour every morning. I started with 10 minutes, and then going on to 20, and then going on to 30. And now I do it for 2 hours. Nobody has to do it for 2 hours. That's a lot of time. That's a big commitment. But having a space, a sacred space every single day within your day, hopefully in the morning, where you can just be like, it's time for me to reflect. That can be meditation, that can be journaling, that can be static dancing, that can be anything that allows you to just connect to yourself. It's not, and I know that a lot of people are just like, yeah, meditation, it's great for stress, and they cite all the benefits. The biggest benefits is that if you do not do it, you will learn from pain. If you do not do it, man, there's going to be a lot of suffering in your life. That's just for sure. If you don't have spaces of reflection, you will learn from pain.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very serious about, and I'm very conscious, and I take my meditation practice very seriously at the beginning of my morning to clear my mind out, to align my energy, to focus, to connect to self, to understand what I'm going through that day, and to have insights on where to go forward. Especially in these times where things are changing every single day and there's a lot of uncertainty, being connected to self helps you understand your path forward.
Yeah, definitely.
And with that, crystals are wonderful as well.
Yes.
There's so many tools for so many things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that SRT is a very impactful tool, but there's a lot of very simple things that we can do. For example, with the anxiety, just change your food and do a grounding exercise. That's helps so much.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much. I loved all your tips for healing. And actually, I love reading. So I don't know if you're a big book reader, but do you have any particular books that you find were very helpful in your journey?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I think so many books were helpful. Let's see. So I'm going to give you different answers for people who are at different moments in their life.
Okay.
So I feel Super Attractor from Gabby Bernstein was a book that I really resonated with about 3 years ago or 2 years ago. When did it launch? When it launched, I was at a moment where that book really resonated with me. And I think that is a wonderful book for somebody who wants to start connecting to self and wants to start connecting to their soul.
Yeah.
That was a very beginner's guidebook, which was fantastic. Another book, that one's just very easy, very practical, very Western, amazing.
Yeah.
What other book has been fantastic? Okay, so there's a couple of other books. I love to read biographies.
Okay.
I love it. I love stories. I love understanding how people operate and how people think about themselves, how people unravel problems. And Alicia Keys' biography was amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And for me, it was a journey of discovering how somebody who is very unique, and one can say also very unique equals weird. Like she's very herself, and how she has mustered the courage to be herself throughout 20 years that allows her to just give a lot of light out into the world. And she explains that even she had moments where, because she also struggled with boundaries, which is something that I feel people who are sensitive and people who are empathic tend to struggle with in general. What happened when she wasn't listening to herself and how she came out of it. Yeah. It helps to understand, it helps to connect. You feel like sometimes it helps to create point of like to reflect about your own journey. And it's inspiring, of course. So that book I super recommend. And then there's a couple of other books. I'm very into Tantra right now. So, the spiritual practice from Hinduism. This book has been amazing, actually. It's called Tantra, The Path of Ecstasy. And it sort of explains from a Western point of view how Tantra comes to be and what it values and how it, what's it about. Yeah. That's way more advanced, I would say. Yeah. That's way more advanced. But yeah, those are 3 books that I've really liked and that I felt have made an impact on me on different points of my journey.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Super Attractor definitely for me was definitely was, when I read it, was at the point where I needed to read it. It just set everything like going.
I felt the same way. I was like, oh, this resonates with me. Everything that she's saying, it resonates with me.
Yeah. And then it was just like, boom, okay, right, what's happening? So yeah, definitely.
For sure.
But I'll definitely be adding the other two to my list of books to read. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So Daniela, if you could travel back to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
That is a really good question. I think I would tell my 13, 14-year-old self, like, just listen to yourself. You're not crazy. You're not going crazy. Just because you think differently and you see things from a different perspective doesn't make you wrong.
Yeah.
And I would tell myself that even today. I think tomorrow I'm going to tell myself that.
Okay.
You're not crazy. But definitely when I was younger, I've always been a bit non-traditional. Like I've always thought differently. I've always seen things from a very different perspective. That's always been like, I've always been a little bit of an outsider in how just I operate and how I think. And it terrified me for a long time to have this outsider's perspective all the time. And now I understand that is how it's supposed to be, because it's completely aligned with myself. And that's the way I serve the world.
Yeah.
Seeing things from a very different perspective than most people.
Yeah.
And so I would tell my younger self, like, listen to yourself, even though everybody's thinking something different. Listen to yourself. If you're smelling something here, there's truth to that.
Yeah. I love that message. And as you say, it's a great message to tell yourself now as well. So,
oh my God, every single day. Like, this is an end. It's not like one day you're just like, oh, I arrived. No. It's like it's a constant unfolding of consciousness. Every day you just expand a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's points where you just feel very comfortable with yourself, but it still continues.
Yeah.
It'll continue for like ever.
Yeah, exactly. We kind of touched on this because, with the current state of the world, there's a lot of people listening right now who want to make changes in their life, whether it's a career, relationships, just whatever it is, but feeling that they're stuck or lost. What advice or recommendations would you have for them to really get rid of that, that stuckness, that lostness, so that they can really take their life to the next level, or to somewhere that they more happy or aligned with?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I would say I've seen myself in that situation in different moments of my life. I remember there was one time where I was like, what is this all about? What's the point? Like, what is my purpose? Nothing is I hate my job. Like, I don't like my job. But I don't know what to do. Like, that is one problem that some people might be having, that I definitely had.
Yeah.
And my advice there is follow your curiosity. Like, when you don't like where you're at, but you don't know yet where you do want to be, when you're just like in that confusion of like, I hate my job, but I don't know what I actually like, follow your curiosity. What makes you curious? What makes you go down Wikipedia rabbit holes? Just like reading, investigating, doing and where your curiosity leads you tends to be, your curiosity, I feel, is very connected to your soul's energy. Where your curiosity leads you, it tends to be the things that make you come alive when you investigate. For me, I started realizing it was a couple of things. One, the esoteric world. Like, I read a lot about this.
Yeah.
Second, purpose and making an impact, and how to create something.
Yes.
For me, creation. And so I went about it from a design point of view, and then I went about it from a business point of view, and then I went about it from an energetic point of view, and then from a spiritual point of view. How to create something, how to manifest something has always been something that has driven my curiosity, or not always, has been a thing that I discovered that has always driven my curiosity when I started giving you the chance to be curious. So that's something. For somebody who's really bored with their jobs, don't know how to move forward, just give yourself permission to be curious for a couple of months and see what comes up, and just take notes. Like, oh, I'm feeling curious about these subjects or this thing. And don't even worry about if it's something that you can monetize or not. Doesn't matter. Yeah. You'll figure it out. But first, what sparks joy in you?
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing. Yeah, I think that's the first thing.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I love that tip about following your curiosity, because a lot of us don't actually know what we love. It's very strange. You would think that you know what you're interested or you love, but most people don't. And I love that you say just follow that curiosity and see where it takes you. I love that tip. Thank you.
Lots of us have, I mean, I feel most of us, I know this was my case not too long ago. I did not have intimacy with myself. In the emotional intimacy. I had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to be with myself. And I was in the times that I had to, I didn't give myself space to reflect. I think the key about that is like giving yourself space to reflect, that be meditation, that be dancing, that be going on the internet and just surfing and giving your space to curiosity. Once you start knowing yourself a little bit better, things will start to pop out. As soon as you give your curiosity and your soul space to speak, it will.
Yeah. Definitely.
But you need to give it space.
Yeah.
In order to speak. Or else because it's a whisper. It's just like follow this, take this course, do this thing, but it's a slight whisper. Yeah. It's not too loud. So you need to like pay attention.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you're reminding people to give themselves that space to listen, because we just live in such a fast-paced world. Everything's go, go, go. We just don't take that time to give ourselves time to listen.
And so the second thing that I was going to say, that's for somebody who is in a space where they don't like their job, but they don't know what they do like. And then there's another position that I've been in, is knowing where I want to be at, but just feeling I'm just hustling and just hustling and hustling and hustling and just moving and feeling that I'm going to burn out at any moment and not feeling very excited about what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah.
One of the things that has really helped me, and even now, is to give myself space to do things I really enjoy that are not productive. So when I am in go mode, which tends to be my MO, like I tend to be like, okay, so we're going to do this and write the email. I have to remind myself to give me, and I don't have children, so I know that people who have children are in a different situation, but I give myself half an hour or an hour in the evenings, just play, dance, do something that brings joy in me for no reason. And that really helps fill in your tank so that you can be happy and then continue to work if that's what you want to do. That has been a huge insight for me, because I did feel at one point in my life I was just hustling. I was like, I didn't burn down, but I was like, I'm gonna burn down in any second right now. And that really helped. Just like, okay, I'm gonna schedule and play in my calendar, because that is the fuel that will allow me to work.
I love that. And it's so important to play. And for people that have children here, I mean, just spending that present time with your children and playing with them makes a difference.
Playing with your children. Yes.
Because I see so many like parents, and I'm also guilty of this, is we're with our children, but we're not really with our children. Then we'll be on the phone, or like we are like doing stuff around the house. So your children are there, but you're not actually being present and spending time with them. So so just having that present time to play and be with them and just enjoy their company, that's something you can do if you need to take a break and play, for those of us who have kids.
Oh yeah, that's so true. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, play with your kids. It's two things at once. It's like you're with your kids and you get to play. Yeah, that's fun. That's fantastic.
So Daniela, I'm going to take a little bit of a turn. I self-love was a big lesson for me on my journey. So as an awakened feminine, what does self-love mean to you?
Ooh, that is a really good question. I feel for me, it's been to put myself first.
Mm.
And what does this mean? It means that whenever I'm being asked to do things, whenever somebody's either asking for my time or for my energy or for whatever, the first thing I do is check in with myself to see how I feel with that request. If that request feels like it's good, it's expansive, I do it. Yeah. If it doesn't, I muster up the courage to say, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm going to make it, or I don't think I want to, like, I put a boundary.
Yeah.
So my journey to self-love has been to really be as mindful with myself,
yeah,
and being the guardian of my own boundaries.
Yeah. I love that.
That has been, and the thing is that I remember for a time when somebody crossed my boundaries, because that happened to me a lot, and I think it happens to a lot to people, and I would get so mad and silent, and I wouldn't say anything. I'll be like, but that person should have known to not ask me for that favor because they're so abusive and blah, blah, blah. And I would just go in an internal rant in myself, thinking that that person should have placed boundaries. And I was like, and now I understand. Now I'm in a place where just like, people are going to do what they want to do or what they need to do, and it's not personal. And it's my responsibility to place boundaries. It's not their responsibility to know what is going to be crossing my boundaries or not, because they're not feeling what I'm feeling.
Yes.
They have no idea where my boundaries lie. For example, the more I do energy work, the more sensitive I become with my ears. I have become like, I hear noise and it immediately goes like it really bothers me. Yeah. And I know people, when I lived with my mother and my brother during the quarantine, I know that they don't have that same level of intolerance. Like their threshold is much higher for noise. And so instead of getting mad at them and being like, turn down the volume, I'm just like being very mindful of like, hey, I know you feel different from me. I am very intolerant to noise, and I thank you so much for keeping it down. And I'm intolerant to noise, and I fall asleep at 10 p.m. So I'm so grateful that you are turning down the TV to the lowest volume possible so that I can sleep okay. And I give myself the service of putting myself earplugs. Yeah. So I think that has been a huge lesson for me of voicing my boundaries before I get intruded on. Because once I get intruded in, I will respond with violence and with aggression. Yeah. Right? And not expecting other people to understand where my boundaries lies, because that is something that's so personal. Boundaries are so personal, and everybody has their own boundaries and things that they're sensitive about and things that they're not. So you need to be the one that voices your own boundaries. Yeah. Or that's my lesson. I was the one that had to voice my own boundaries.
And I totally agree with everything that you said. It totally resonates. It's taking personal responsibility, really.
And that takes courage. It's not easy. Like, no, it's not easy to be like, hey, no. It's not easy. And that's why sometimes I needed to grow up. Part of the process was like, placing boundaries means that you need to adult up and say, hey, I'm having an uncomfortable conversation with you for the better good of both of us.
Yeah, exactly. Love it. So then what are your top 3 activities that you like to do to ensure that you give yourself the self-love that you deserve?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Meditation, like my reflection space in the morning is sacred to me. Like if I don't have that in the morning, I know that I won't be performing at my optimum. I know I'm going to be snappy. I know I'm going to be irritated more easily. I know I'm not going to be as centered. So giving myself that space in the morning is very important. You don't have to give yourself 2 hours like I do. I mean, people are generally aren't karmic healers. Yeah. So if you're doing something that is not working with subtle energy, give yourself time. So for me, that space is sacred. The other thing that I feel is that it just makes me feel very good and nourished is like skincare. Like nourishing my skin, like buying skin products that make my skin feel nice. The products that I'm buying, I like things that are clean. So for example, clean products, products that don't have that much chemicals. So I invest in a little bit more in products that are organic and non-GMO and all these things, because I want to give my skin the best treatment that I can. Because for me, skincare is self-love.
Yes.
And I think the third thing would be, you know what? I love beauty and I love harmony, and I love things that are well crafted and well made. And so when I am going through money crunches, or when I've been through money crunches, I'm just like, ooh, I don't want to I know I can't spend too much on clothes, and I don't want to overspend. I make the commitment of whatever I buy is something that I will open the package and be like, oh, I want to keep this for a long time because this is so well crafted. So I rather have only 2 pair of jeans, but those 2 pair of jeans are something that just I see them, I'm just like, this makes me feel really good. So that is another routine that I practice, buying things that are good quality, even if it means buying less things.
Yeah. I just loved when you started talking about beauty and well-crafted stuff. Your feminine just came out. I was like, oh
yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%.
Look at her change, that energy. Love it.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. My feminine energy comes out with beauty and aesthetics, and I'm just like, oh, this has ruffles, and I love this and the textures. I'm very much about that. Yeah.
Love it. So Daniela, before we wrap up, I'd love you to share what your personal mission is and what is setting your soul on fire right now.
Ooh, that's a really good question. So my mission, or my calling, I feel, so that is a question that I will say for right now, because these things change.
Yes.
So my calling right now is to help artists and content creators that already have a platform to connect to their soul so that they can bring more light into the world. I feel that we spend so much time consuming content, be that on social media or on Netflix, and when the content that we're consuming comes from a place of higher consciousness, it benefits us all. The difference between seeing somebody who's creating things on Instagram like Jay Shetty, or all these, where you just feel nurtured and you feel nourished by the type of content that they're creating. So I want to help people who are already impacting a lot of, who already have a following. It was bring more light into the world. And the way that I'm doing it right now at this moment is with karmic healing, meaning that I help them with the energy blocks that are keeping them in fear, or creating confusion, or creating inspiration droughts. That's another big one for artists, especially, so that they can connect more to their light. That is I would say my calling at the moment. That's what I'm attracting. That's what I'm targeting. That's where I feel my soul comes on fire, when I can help people connect to their soul, and people that already have been on a journey to connect to their soul's essence.
Yeah.
Artists tend to be very much like that. When you're an artist, you put your vulnerability on the line. In order to write a song, you have to put your heart out so that song goes. It requires just a lot of connecting to yourself. So I like to help them further that process so that more light can come in.
Oh, love that. Such a beautiful calling for this chapter of your life right now. So
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see how it all goes for you since you've moved to LA now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Daniela, thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today. If people want to find out more about what you do and how they can work with you, where should they go?
All right. So my main place to receive all visits and calls is my website. It's www at amapolaspiritual.com. That's where you can find me, all my information. I have a couple of videos there and a couple of downloadable ebooks as well. At the moment, I am only doing one-on-one sessions, but what I do want to do from in the near future, which is why I'm inviting you to come and like subscribe to the email list, is that I will start creating tools that are a little bit more DIY. Things that you can do by yourself and that doesn't require you going into a consultation. So that will, I'm creating them right now. And I'm going to start creating them this year, next year. So yeah, that's where you can learn more about me and what I do.
Awesome. I'll have all your details and any recommended resources available in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you once again.
Oh, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Yeah. And until next time, I love you, I believe in you, and you are worth taking that first step to the life of your dreams.